What's up, everybody? It is time for the recap. Lunch hour with Guff. Me, Ryan McGuffey, here on the recap. We've had some spirited conversations thus far this week in regards to the Chicago Bears head coaching search, and I believe today is day 11. Yes, that's correct. You could actually make a case that it's like month 3 since Matt Eberflus was fired after Thanksgiving. Maybe probably about 2 months since we knew the Bears were getting a new head coach. And today at Halas Hall, we know we've been talking about it for 2 or 3 days this week. Mike McCarthy is at Halas Hall. I think as we speak, he flew privately, which is something new. I wanted to pull up a tweet from Courtney Cronin, the great reporter for the Chicago Bears on ESPN and ESPN 1000. Courtney said, so there's some debate back and forth here, okay? There's some debate whether or not David Shaw was the former Stanford head coach, was interviewed yesterday by the Chicago Bears, actually last night by the Bears. They put that out around 8 or 9 o'clock that they had completed their interview with David Shaw. There's really been no confirmation whether or not that interview was done in person or on Zoom. The Bears seem to be hush-hush about that. Courtney Cronin this morning, about 47 minutes ago, she said, for me and Kalen Kaler, per a league source, the Chicago Bears are conducting their in-person interview with Mike McCarthy this afternoon, their second known candidate to interview in person after Ron Rivera did on Sunday. McCarthy flew from Dallas to Wheeling, that's Chicago Executive Airport, in private accommodations, which is a departure from previous team protocol, which was to put him on a normal airline like Dan Quinn flew at a middle seat and coach. McCarthy also a top target for the Saints opening and expected to interview with New Orleans. Cap and I have been saying, don't let him get out of the building if you want to hire the guy. Well, the problem is if they have not been complicit with the Rooney Rule. Now, Kalen Kaler retweeted about 15 minutes ago. She quote tweeted Courtney by saying the Bears are not yet Rooney Rule compliant. They have done only one of the 2 required in-person interviews with minority candidates, that being Ron Rivera. Any coaches employed by other NFL clubs, no matter if they are still playing or not, cannot do in-person interviews until Monday, January 20th. But David Shaw is not employed by an NFL team. So that's the part where there seems to be some speculation, maybe a little bit of confusion. Also this morning, the Bears completed their head coach interview with Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith. I want nothing to do with Arthur Smith. Jimbo, what's up? Arthur Smith, the Steelers offensive coordinator, they weren't very good. The former head coach of the Falcons. That was done today. So that was interview candidate number 11. Mike McCarthy's number 12. Broski, McCarthy head coach, Ron Rivera defensive coordinator. Let's get it done. A huge mistake to wait for Ben Johnson. I don't know if it's a huge mistake. What I get fearful of is that all of your it's kind of a Ben Johnson or bust at that point. And you're likely competing with other clubs coming down the stretch. I am all in on the former coaches banding together and lining up. You know, you got 2 head coaches. One is a coordinator, one is a head coach. Clyde wants to know, who do I pick as head coach of the Chicago Bears? Love your lunch podcast. Appreciate you, Clyde. I am in my final 3 right now are Ben Johnson, Mike McCarthy, and Pete Carroll, I think. You know, yes, I have 2 older former coaches, but I love the idea of bringing on former coach, especially I'm going to read you something from Micah Parsons, by the way, the stud former defensive player of the year for the Cowboys. I'll read that in a second. CPO rules. Guff, how are we feeling about the McCarthy interview today? Are the Bears free to hire anyone now that Arthur Smith is white? Okay. So that Arthur Smith, Arthur Smith he's white. So that is not compliant with the Rooney Rule. And so again, speculation. Now, so Courtney and Kalen Kaler are about as 2 dialed in people as you could have. But if no one knows technically if David Shaw has been in person, maybe the Bears are keeping it hush. If they want to hire McCarthy, he doesn't get out of the building. Maybe that's a possibility. Mike says, I'm not against McCarthy at all, but I love how this went from getting the best guy, the most important hire in Bears history, to now hiring a guy this team needs at this time. So funny. I still think, by the way, Mike, that McCarthy could be the best guy and a very important hire. I don't think if McCarthy gets the job, I don't think that you're saying, well, we settled. I mean, you're getting a guy that's been a successful head coach. I don't know about that one. Ira, my concern with Ben Johnson is twofold. One, expansive head coach duties, detracting from impact he can have with Caleb. Reasonable. Two, not having head coach experience, further reducing his effect on Caleb. I don't know if I worry about two as much as I do about one, and just learning how to be a head coach in the NFL when you need people to take the next step. Eric, what's up? Hey, Guff, hope all is well. Hopefully this McCarthy interview goes very well. But my guess is that it's going to come down to Ben Johnson or Mike McCarthy. I don't feel like you're wrong on that. We do know that Ben Johnson can, I believe, interview in person if the Lions were to make the Super Bowl during the bye week. So it'd be nice to get it'd be nice to get Ben Johnson in the building, not just on Zoom. If Shaw interviewed in person, yes. And then Mike, and that's what we're trying to figure out. And the Bears they don't ever say, they just say we've completed the interview. You know, if you guys are familiar with how the Bears have been doing it, I'll show you real quick. So this was an hour ago. They sent a tweet out like this. It just says, we have completed our interview with head coach candidate Arthur Smith. So we don't know in person, etc. I'm with you on the final three, says Lou. Appreciate that. I don't think you can do wrong with that. I'm going to keep saying dark horses, Ryan Day, my gut feel. You know, Monday is going to be interesting because I think both of those coaches could be added to this list of 20. I don't think Marcus Freeman even takes the interview. I don't see why he would. While I love Marcus Freeman, I just love him right now more for Notre Dame. If Flores is hired, do you think McDaniels would be the OC? I think Josh McDaniels, unless I've seen otherwise, is going to. It sounds like he's very close to going to New England. Yeah, it's not done, but Josh McDaniels is very much in the running in New England. Clyde, the Cubs need a right-handed starting pitcher and a closer and a bat. That's it. They need to sign Bregman or concede third base. I don't think you're signing Matt or Alex Bregman. Not when you have Matt Shaw waiting. Cubs convention this weekend. Today, in this exact studio in about 3 hours or so, Jed Hoyer will be here in person. A Cubs recap podcast with Cap and Gordon. I'll be here as well, but Jed will be here. Your questions answered. Clyde, we'll discuss this stuff. He will be here in this hot seat today, and that will drop later today. We also recorded a White Sox recap podcast, me and BA, with your questions, what you would ask at Sox Fest 2025 next week. Jess, yes, the Bears should stay away from Arthur Smith. Oh, Jess is anything Pennsylvania. Jess is dialed in. She could help us. I'm going to call Jess our Pennsylvanian insider. So here's her thoughts on Arthur Smith. The lackluster offense near the end of the season, lack of use of Fields, especially with the additional issues coming to light with George Pickens. And some eye rolls there. So, Jess, yeah, you're our insider when it comes to Penn State. I'm going to throw Philadelphia in there. I know Pittsburgh's kind of your backyard, I think. But we're going to throw anything Pennsylvania to you. Thoughts on Cubs and Bregman? Okay, I don't think, and maybe his price comes down. Let's see. I saw the MLB Network could reportedly be a fit for the Cubs if it's a shorter term deal. This is from my guy Bruce Levine, by the way. So Bruce is my guy. I talked to Bruce earlier today, actually. So Bruce, and this is what's great. He says it could be a fit if the Cubs, if he shifts his focus to a shorter term deal as free agency continues. The Cubs have had casual conversations with Boris about that possibility. Now, if that's the case, I'm all in. I am. Why would you not? That's the talk about. You're bringing two former studs from Houston. You need protection right now for Kyle Tucker. It's pretty damn good protection. Lou, you talking about McCarthy here. He's worked with Favre, Rodgers, Zach Prescott, or Dak. Zach. You got me all. Zach Prescott. Dak Prescott. And successfully, Caleb needs that in a guy who won. I'll get over the Packers stench. I could care less about him coaching the Packers. I could care less. Matter of fact, it's when he won there. So He developed Aaron Rodgers. Dak had a ridiculous year last year. I'm all in. If that's why I like the idea of a guy who you don't need to talk about media training with, how to work Chicago, the division. He knows all of that, and he knows quarterbacks. That's why McCarthy's very attractive. At this point, Lip Ripper says just get him to the draft. Lip Ripper, get your picks together for later, for the bet of the day. And a little funk here. Zach Levine absolutely killed me yesterday. Not happy about it. Not happy about it. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So I wanted to read this Dak Prescott thing, or not Dak. Yeah, I've got Dak on my mind. I wanted to read this article from Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons appeared on the Edge podcast. Here's what he said. I'm obviously very sad. I'm going to put this back up. I'm obviously very sad because of the relationships we had with Coach McCarthy and everything he's done for our program. 3 straight 12-5 seasons, playoff appearances, and obviously an unfortunate year due to injuries. It is devastating. Coach Mike is a great father, great coach, one of the most winningest coaches. He's always been good for us and to us as a unit, coaches, and players. Losing a great coach like Mike hurts. Love the validation from one of the NFL's best defensive players. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. It's going to be very interesting due to the free agents coaching. It's going to be a very complete reset. It's going to be a very interesting and challenging offseason. The Cowboys players are stunned. Not a lot of people. You hear Troy Aikman on Monday night talk about this. He says they don't have a plan because he didn't expect this either. The real Phil Simms. Good afternoon. They better not screw this up. I think we're all on the same page there. David has a feeling Ben Johnson's going to the Raiders. ESPN predicted that exact same thing. Oh, we haven't done a start bench cut in a long time, Matt. The Steakhouse edition. Easiest start for me of all time. Just for you, by the way. I mean, just for you. I mean, I like that we're throwing the start bench cut out of nowhere, but I even got a graphic for you. Look at that. Let's go. The start bench cut. This is easy. I'll answer it now because it just kind of popped up on the feed here. You guys are pouring in the comments. Holy hell. It's awesome. I love it. Start bench cut. Why can't I find it now? I know a Chicago cut was on the list. Now I can't find it. Matty M. There it is. Easy. Chicago cut. Me and Cass, one of our favorite places. David Flom, Matt Moore, those guys are the best in the business. Chicago cut is absolutely easy for me. I think, to me, this is hard. I could go either way. I wouldn't even put those two. Like, you make it really hard for me when you get a little bit some other names in there. Chicago cut's the easiest, yes, of all time. Probably bench Mastros and cut Capitol Grill. The other two are chains. You can get Mastros in other spots. You can get Capitol Grill in other spots. I'll say Mastros bench, Capitol Grill cut. Mike says we can say we don't know all we want. It's obvious that Ben Johnson is a McVay, O'Connell, LaFleur type. It's more than obvious. If we let Johnson go, he could come here. He would come here. That's a major problem. I don't know how you can. It's impossible. No one had Kevin. When the Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell, go back and look at what people were saying. They're like, I don't know. Not a sexy pick. How'd that work out? It's easy to sit here now and be like, oh, look at McVay, look at O'Connell, look at LaFleur. Look at the resumes. To sit there and you're discrediting those three names by saying Ben Johnson automatically is going to have that cachet. To me, Ray, too many people, man, why did this stuff have to be this hard? Too many, you're talking about, so Ray, you're talking about too many candidates. I mean, no stone unturned. I think there's like Cap said, we did a recap. We've been doing recaps, Bears recaps each night at 7:00 on the coaching search. And, Cap, a little excessive. And he's right. Mike Kafka, Arthur Smith to me, don't need him. Jess thinks Ryan Day is definitely one to watch. He'll play with a chip on his shoulder and will want to win to be considered for head coaching just despite Ohio State. I think there's a lot of speculation out there about this, which is why maybe Mike McCarthy leaves today and goes to New Orleans for the interview. Better situation in Chicago. New Orleans is in salary cap hell. They have quarterback issues. Derek Carr's got a big-ass contract. Great market, but better than Chicago? No. Lou, you're available. got no experience, can get to Lake Forest in an hour and fulfill the Rooney Rule obligation before McCarthy gets here. Lou, fire up the vehicle, man. Let's go. Get it over here. It's right up the road from our studios here. I'll worry about getting you in past security. And we'll let them know that you're here to adhere to the Rooney Rule. And it should have no problem getting in. I can't wait to see what the picture they put out of you, Lou, after it's like the Bears say we've completed our interview with head coaching candidate Lou Melgarejo. I want to see. Hopefully it's your profile picture. Ira, what is your opinion on who Mike McCarthy would bring in as an OC, and would Mike McCarthy call offensive plays? I believe that he would. Here, I'm going to pull up this. I believe he would call offensive plays. So, offensive coordinator was Brian Schottenheimer. Honestly, I'd be okay if Brian Schottenheimer came here. Brian Schottenheimer's been a good football coach for a long time in the league, and he's been the OC for the St. Louis. Okay, here's Brian Schottenheimer. Offensive coordinator from the Jets from 2006 to 2011. Offensive coordinator of the Rams, 2012 to 2014. The OC at Georgia in 2015. The offensive coordinator at Seattle, 2018 to 2020. Offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, 23 and 24. I mean, he was on his staff. Those are usually things that happen. Maybe they move on from a guy like that. Maybe they don't. Who we got chiming in here? Emiliano. Let's get yours in here. Thanks for the thank you for the donation. Get your comment on the screen the most. I skipped past a whole hell of a lot to get you on Ben the Pen Johnson or bust. Any other hires a fail unless they win a Super Bowl. So this is where you and I will disagree, my friend. I just don't see how you can say Ben the Pen or bust. I don't, because you don't know. From a creative standpoint, one of the best play callers in the game. No one's arguing that. Not one person. If they do, they're nuts. But no one knows how he can, taking on all the responsibilities of the CEO of the program. We don't know until he gets the opportunity. He's going to get hired this cycle. I just don't know if you can say Ben Johnson or bust. I don't know if you can say that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate. See, if you throw the donation down, you hit that donate button, I'll throw your ass up there real quick. So appreciate that. And let's get back to answering some of your other thoughts and concerns as the Bears are talking to or interviewing, as we say right now, they're interviewing Mike McCarthy. Jess is excited because it's Jed Hoyer Day. It is Jed Hoyer Day here at the recap. Jed Hoyer will be in our studios here in a matter of a few hours. Johnny said, let's go. Put the pressure on Jed. Y'all's podcast is one of the best. Thank you. As I said, we got the Cubs and Sox podcast we've been doing lately with the people we've been getting in studio. It's just been outstanding. Shy Northside, in my opinion, Ben Johnson wants his choice for GM. If the Raiders have no GM, I believe Tom Brady will try to sell him on that while broadcasting the Lions game. I think you're right. I think that's been a big draw, and I think that's why the Raiders took time to fire Antonio Pierce and then Tom Telesco. They didn't fire them on the same day. They didn't fire them immediately. I think they put a plan together and said, hey, let's figure out what we need to do to get the number one guy on our list. McCarthy's calling plays. I agree, but I'm saying if you have an experienced OC backing him up rather than a first-time guy, like a lot of people yesterday in the chat saying Thomas Brown for OC, when you have a guy like Brian Schottenheimer who's been an OC in the league for over 10 years, why wouldn't you do that? Look at McCarthy's offense, says Brandon, the last 3 playoff games. Horrid. 12, 17, 16 points, 32 after garbage time. Regular season is all he does. Hey, Brandon, look up the last 11 regular seasons for the Chicago Bears. I would love to be sitting here scrutinizing his last 3 playoff games with the Chicago Bears. Okay? I mean, I don't know what to say. We get, we're pissed when we don't do something. Then we do something that's like, well, he sucks in the playoffs. We haven't even been in the playoffs. I'd rather sit here and talk about how horrid the year finished with a bad playoff loss than sitting here redoing this again and again after 3 years. Does Jed plan on building the next great Cubs team? Stop half-stepping Jed. Keep in mind, guys. Keep in mind, he's being given a budget. So he's getting creative with the number he can actually hit from the owner. Jonathan says, I love my White Sox. Do you think the Sox will win a ton more with Venable? Do not expect a lot of wins this year. I expect a payroll of 65 to 70 million. I expect the baseball to look different in terms of the style of play. Hitting the cutoff man, running first and third. But guys, they don't have the talent right now. I like BA's idea. BA should say the motivating factor should be 99 losses. And you might laugh at that. That'd be a 22-game improvement and would stop a third straight season of 100 losses. But they don't have the talent. They're going to have a lot of talented players making their debuts this year. But they are just pouring the foundation of this house. No need to bring in a bunch of just stupid contracts that are tying things up and blocking guys to play at the major league level. I do think they'll win more with Venable in 2 or 3 years, yes. I don't get the hate on McCarthy from some fans. He's the second best head coaching candidate available this offseason. Johnny, I'm with you, man. I don't think people have looked at the resume deep enough. And it certainly is a hell of a lot. Keep in mind, prior to John Fox, what the Bears said, don't hire coaches with head coaching experience. And don't sit there and go, what did John Fox do? I'm just saying the cheaper option's always been hire the hot coordinator or a coordinator. McCarthy group in Pittsburgh, similar to some coach named Decca. Just saying, McCarthy needs to grow that. He got to grow a stash if he comes here. He spelled Favre and Dak wrong. Oh, come on, Clyde. Don't be calling people out, man. We're a band of brothers and sisters here. Lip Ripper's asking if I'm a college hoops or an NHL pick. A little preview, Lip Ripper, an unexpected off-the-grid college basketball pick coming from me later in the show. Maybe if you put yours out there, we'll see if we hit the same one. Daniel Parsons is on his last year, so maybe he can come with McCarthy. Oh, please sign me up. John, why would you want to coach the Bears? This ownership is a disaster. Because how many of these jobs are there? We need to sit there as a coordinator still? I mean, come on, folks. We need Ben Johnson, hands down, says Randall, who's a friend of the program. Okay, so Clyde's playing his own. Okay, Clyde, I got to get you out of these chains, man. We got to get you to a nice no-chain steakhouse. You're starting Texas Roadhouse, benching Outback, and cutting Ruth Chris. Man, oh man, is that a messed up list. I would start Ruth of that group. Man, am I starting Ruth Chris over that on that group. Woof. Nora, who do you think has a better chance of being the next head coach? I'd like it. Hey, Nora, you know what would be awesome? If it was Ben Johnson or Mike McCarthy, we knew those were the two finalists. Because then to me, it's like, I feel pretty good about the process. Not a lot of people might not. I think the better chance today in that, and I do think Ben Johnson last night took over the betting favorite from Mike McCarthy. So that's interesting. The betting market offshore accounts know what's going on. I'll say Mike McCarthy right now. Shy Northside believes Mike McCarthy wants to go to the Bears to stick it to the Packers. After the Jets debacle, we will all see now how much of a narcissist Aaron Rodgers really is and was with the Packers. I think that you guys, you Bears fans, you're thinking way too hard about this Bears-Packers thing. I really do. I don't think Mike McCarthy's like, yep, that's where I'm going. It's my chance to stick it back to Green. I don't think that they're thinking like that at all. I don't think. I'm looking right now. I forgot who the Cowboys lost to in the playoffs. I think they lost to, I think they lost to the Niners, I want to say, last year. I'm just wondering if they lost here last year in the playoffs. Oh, yeah. You want to stick it to Green Bay? This is what I was hoping to find. If you want to stick it to Green Bay, you should have beat them in the wild card last year when Prescott threw for 403 and they lost 48-32 in that crazy ass game that the Packers dominated. That's where you stick it to the Packers. Vince, in no particular order, Mike McCarthy, Pete Carroll, Ben Johnson. You and I, Vince, think very much alike. Jim Clark. Man, I love when you know the people behind the name. There's nothing better than that. Brian Schottenheimer has never been the same since he stopped working with Brandon Sanchez's brother, Mark. Man, the connections here are looming large. So Mark Sanchez, former Bear, most success, back-to-back AFC title appearances with the New York Jets and Rex Ryan, as we know. Brandon Sanchez at one point suited up for the DePaul Tigers in Greencastle, Indiana. Didn't make it, didn't finish the program. like the rest of us, but a lot of connections there, including my guy who likes to play Truth or Dare, or at one point played Truth or Dare with a singer named Ingrid Michaelson. Jim Clark, the best in the business. Daniel Parsons on his left. Oh, yeah, we already hit that. I love when you guys comment on YouTube and Facebook and you double dip. I love that. Could he bring in Kellen Moore? So Kellen Moore's the OC right now in where? Philadelphia. I think Kellen Moore could be the head coach. Yeah, he's the OC right now in Philly. He won't bring Kellen Moore because he needs a promotion. I think Kellen Moore might get the Dallas head coaching job. So a couple more here. Got a Bulls podcast coming up, Bulls recap podcast with Joe Cowley coming up. Eric, honestly, Guff, my prediction is that we will hire a new head coach by the end of the month based on what's going on with all these updates, social media stuff. Hopefully we get this right. Yeah, agreed. Hopefully we get it right. Couple more. You guys are pouring them in today. My goodness. Vince, if it weren't for my inept Bears, I would think the longer the Bears go without a hire, it would be because they're waiting on Ben and have a handshake deal. There's no handshake deals, especially if you haven't had the opportunity in person to do the handshake. Swayze says the fact that the Bears don't have the cojones to fire people who deserve to be fired will end up biting them in the ass. We'll see. Blue Dan, I think your 70 wins might mean for the White Sox. That is way too optimistic, but I don't hate it. Let's jump down here. Richard, what's wrong with Pete Carroll and Ron Rivera's defense coordinator? I don't think Pete Carroll's doing the DC. I think Ron Rivera might, but I don't think Pete Carroll will. King Panther, he wants to be a head coach again. Mr. Guff, our Blackhawks have a stud in Bedard, not Bernard, Bedard. And our recent one pick maybe as well. Who is a can't miss one pick? Okay, this is one thing I don't know. I don't know who the can't. I'll have to do a little research for you on the upcoming NHL draft class. But the NHL draft class is a lot like MLB. Young guys you're hoping are studs that you don't know. Emiliano coming in with another one. With Jerry, the owner of the White Sox, will do nothing or be anything. If the Bears don't hire the pen, I'll feel the same. Virginia, I know you're watching. Oh, I appreciate you so much, Emiliano. All right, so Lip Ripper is going with his. Okay, Lip Ripper, time for the bet of the day anyway. 27 minutes into the show. When you take UNLV, it's tough for me not to take them with you because you're an alum. UNLV plus 5.5 at home against Utah State, and Porter Moser's Oklahoma Sooners -3 versus Texas. I'm going to go. Okay, so last night we got screwed. You know why? Because Zach LaVine, who had 6 straight games of 30 or more, had 2 points at the half. Two flipping points at the half. He finished with 25. The over was 27.5. That hurt. Bulls lose to the Pelicans. They should keep losing because they need to trade these guys. Today, you want to talk about off the grid, folks. I'm going off the grid. St. Bonaventure's the best team in the country covering the spread. They've had 2 straight where they haven't. I like that. It's a good spot to be. They're 13-3 against the spread this year. I'm riding them. I'm going to lay the 13.5 at home against Richmond, conference game. Richmond's one of the worst teams in the country. They're 5-11 against the spread. 10-14-1. We've had 2 back-to-back losses here. Here's the deal. Actually, we've had back-to-back losses. We were 10-11 at one point here. I'm right. I'm playing. Sometimes you stay away from the trend. Sometimes you play it. I'm playing this one. I'm back in the trend. I'm back in the Bonnies as the best team in the country against the spread. I'm laying the 13.5 at home. They just had a tough loss a couple of nights ago. I'm going to sneeze again because that's what happens in this place. That's always fun to sneeze live. So I'm going to say they bounce back tonight at home. We're riding the Bonnies. The comments pouring in. Dick isn't from Pittsburgh. Come on. He's from Pennsylvania. Played at Pitt. Come on. Broski. I love when my favorite, by the way, is when you guys are the overcorrecting. It's fun. That's why we're here. Pablo, I just wanted to sneak you in here. I know it shouldn't matter, but do you think Caleb is somewhere hoping for McCarthy since Caleb is an Aaron Rodgers fan and McCarthy had a hand? Maybe. I will say check out the St. Brown podcast. Amaron St. Brown and his brother. Why am I blanking? The former Bear. That dropped today. I retweeted the Caleb talks about getting catfished, about Ben Johnson getting the hire. It's funny stuff. So he definitely knows he wants Ben Johnson. Sharp pick. Mine's a sharp pick there. Thank you. Appreciate you, Lip Ripper. Bet of the day here. Over. Look at the bets coming in. 160.5. Stop betting the Bulls. I tried to play into the crowd. I was riding a trend there too, Lip Ripper. Didn't work out. Didn't work out. Check it out, Pablo, for sure. You meant Pete Carroll. Yeah, that could. I don't think that's happened. All right, not overcorrecting. It's correcting. Born. All right, broski. Jeez, here, I'll take it. Go ahead. All right, I took it on the chin. I mean, he went to Pitt, right? Didn't he go to Pitt? The clutch. If I don't get this right, I'm going to get corrected forever in this town because it's the coach. You should know where he's from. The coach went to Pittsburgh. That's what I meant. Okay, he's from Pennsylvania. He went to Pitt. That's what I mean, broski. All right. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for chiming in. All the comments. My God, we couldn't get to all of them. Keep it coming. We'll have more content up all day long. We have a Bulls. I already taped the White Sox recap podcast. That'll drop in a bit. We have a Bulls recap podcast. We have a Cubs recap podcast with Cap Gordon and Jed Hoyer right here. Seats warm for him on this couch. We'll have the recap rush hour. We'll have a recap of the Bears head coaching search day 11 and a recap of the Bulls game against the Hawks tonight. Woo! A lot going on. Appreciate you guys. The recap lunch hour, another edition with me, Guff, Ryan McGuffey. I thank you. Have a great day. We'll see you guys tomorrow.